Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining me in the locker room on this last Thursday in August. I'm Alan Locher. Daytime audiences first fell in love with Wally Kurth when he made his debut as Justin Kiriakis on Days of Our Lives in 1987. In 1991, he moved over to Port Charles and General Hospital to take over the role of Ned Quartermaine. Wally is currently doing double duty on both shows. In addition to his roles on Days of Our Lives and General Hospital, he also played Sam Hutchins on As the World Turns. And in his spare time, he performs and tours with the Day Players, featuring his co-stars Eric Martsolf, Brandon Barash, and Carson Boatman. He and Christian Taylor formed the band in 1992. Sorry, I think I misspoke on that one. But anyway, please help me welcome Wally Kurth to the locker room.
Hello.
I left the old thing in there, didn't I?
Yes, that's okay. Forgiven.
Great to see you, Wally.
Nice to see you, Alan.
I wanted to say I'm sorry for your loss. I know fans were really sad to hear about Arlene passing.
Yeah. And Jackie's demon. I mean, it's been a tough year. I didn't see Arlene as much as I always wanted to. Every time I bumped into her around town, she was such a delight, so funny, and so sweet. And we just didn't hang out in the same crowds, but it was just one of those people that I always wished I could see more of. And I was watching some of these clips that people, uploaded, and I was really amazed at just how important she really was for that whole Justin and Adrian romance and the whole charm of that whole story. She was, pivotal. And I didn't really realize, just, I guess because I was in it, that, looking back, pulling out, I could see that she really was, just key to that whole romance.
When you wrote about her on social media,
she always made me smile. Yes, she did. And I forgot about those earrings and the whole sort of ridiculousness of that. But, I come from the musical theater. So, that kind of fun, real, goofy sidekick type of character is, typical. And I embraced it. I just loved her nuttiness. And it kind of reminded me of doing a musical.
And you mentioned Jackie as well. Talk about Jackie.
I didn't work with Jackie as much as I worked with Arlene, but she was just such a good soul and always friendly, and just this there's a real sort of like a real nurturing, mothering figure around the set. And she saw a lot of changes from those early years of General Hospital. She saw every executive producer that came through, and she remained steady Jackie, accepting and embracing of all the new characters coming on. And I'm sure there was a time when her light didn't shine quite as bright as it used to, but she was fine with going back a little bit into the, into the back burner, and was fine with that.
She was a class act.
She was a class act, exactly. A class act.
Yeah.
On the set and off the set.
Joined Days of Our Lives 35 years ago.
Yeah.
Could you ever have imagined you'd still be playing that character?
No. No one thinks that far ahead. I really didn't. But, I love what I'm doing. I love being on both shows. I love the fact that I play this character that's, gotten older with, as the fans have gotten older and seen this character hopefully evolve as I've evolved. And I haven't been afraid to change my character because I've changed. You know what I mean? I've never really been like, okay, this is the character and I've got to stay true to it. I've always understood that a lot of daytime performances really need to have a real personal stake, and you bring your personality and your whole humanity to this character. And I learned pretty quickly that, these were just really important versions of Wally. And I think that's really the key. You really have to I try to bring most of Wally, at least a version of Wally into both of these characters as much as I can, and bring as much truth as I can. And the fact that I still get these scripts, after all these years, and the producers still trust me, and the writers obviously still want me to, be a character on their canvas, is a real honor, and I'm humbled.
Yeah, you're a rare few, getting the opportunity to play networks on two shows.
Yeah. And there's only 4 left. So I feel a little bit greedy. Some days I feel a little greedy because I know there are just as good actors out there in daytime in the past that aren't even on one show, and I'm sure they would love to do it. And so I do feel like, geez,
That's so funny.
But I still feel like I have time. If Bold and the Beautiful ever needed another character, I'm totally open. I think I could probably work it out.
That's so funny. I'm going to try and just reboot my side, see if it's me with the audio.
Okay.
Just smile and talk to the fans.
Okay. All right. Here I am. I'm getting some audio fixes here. I'm actually sitting at a table. As you can see, it's a little rocky. And it's hard to balance it. So if you see me, I've noticed that the image is going up and down. It's because we have a wobbly table, and I'm leaning on it. I'll try not to lean.
That's fine.
Anyway,
that's fine.
I think.
Yeah, looks a little better.
I don't know what the sound issue is, so I apologize.
Okay.
I was going to ask, did you have any connection to soaps before you joined Days of Our Lives? Did you watch them?
Well, it's funny you should ask. I just remembered the other day. So we're over at the NBC studios, where it's now called the Burbank Studios. And when I was at UCLA, my girlfriend's father had a connection with the cue card writer who did the Tonight Show and Bob Hope. He was actually Bob Hope's cue card guy. Barney, his name was Barney. He also did Days of Our Lives. So one of my first jobs, I would drive from UCLA all the way out to Burbank and do cue cards. So I learned how to sort of print, but I wasn't a great printer, but I was printing cue cards for Days of Our Lives probably back in like I was going to school there in 81, 82, right around there. And so I didn't start on Days of Our Lives in 87. So it was just like 6 or 7 years earlier that I was doing cue cards. But no, I did watch when I was working one summer out at my grandfather had a cattle ranch, and I was cutting hay one summer, and all summer long, and we'd come in and we'd watch One Life to Live. So that was like summer of like 77, something like that. And I'd watched One Life to Live, and I got into it. So I understood, I really enjoyed the story. I couldn't wait to get back in and watch it. I guess my grandmother used to watch General Hospital, but I don't remember ever hanging out with grandma when she was watching General Hospital.
I love that. Take me back to New York City and As the World Turned. You told me that story. How you found out what was going to happen to your character.
Well, when I was told, because it was a limited run, so Chris offered it to me. Just said, "Hey, we got a 3-month run of a deranged ventriloquist," and I said, "I'm in." I wasn't doing anything else. I wasn't working, and Magic is one of my favorite books and favorite movies with Anthony Hopkins. So I always loved this ventriloquist idea that the guy sort of loses himself, and I wanted to sort of play that. So anyway, I had high ambitions to get this, really be a pretty good ventriloquist, where I was really, "Hey, I'm Cowboy Jack," and I was manipulating. I'd bring the dummy home on, when I'd fly in and out, because it was a really tough schedule because I was living in LA and As the World Turns is in New York. So I'd take a red eye to Kennedy, get a car, drive straight over to the studio, often get there just in time to do the rehearsal, first rehearsal in the morning, starting at like 7:30 or 8 o'clock. It was brutal. But anyway, I had this dummy, and I knew my time was coming to an end, probably maybe a month before I left. And Chris Goutman's son, I think probably 11 years old, very precocious little kid, Nicholas, came up to me and somewhat, happy to tell me that he knew the secret. And he goes, "Oh yeah, you're going to be shot in the back by whatever the kid, the teenager's, Maura's son." And I was like, "Oh, really?" Didn't know that. I knew I was not long. I hadn't heard anything about where it was going, so I thought that was a little.
Had you ever lived in New York?
And I had lived there, but I remember saying like, "Oh, I kind of acted like, oh, I know that," but I didn't know that. Yeah, I lived in New York when I had done Pirates of Penzance. I was, I was in the chorus of Pirates of Penzance. I actually left school at UCLA to join the national tour, and I became the second understudy to the Pirate King, and then the first understudy because our first understudy was sick. And then in Chicago, I ended up doing the Pirate King. So then they moved me to the Broadway show. So yeah, in 1982, 83, I was in New York. And I was the fifth and final Pirate King at the Minskoff Theater. And my name was in lights. I got a picture of it. And like, oh my God, I've made it. I'm on Broadway. And I'm like 22 years old. And like, this was easy. I had no idea it'd be this easy. And then of course I didn't get anything after that. I didn't join any other Broadway show after that. Ran out of money and went back to Los Angeles and went back to UCLA and got my degree. And then I was out of work for like 3 or 4 years before I started on Days of Our Lives in '87.
That's crazy. I heard you tell Geiger that you played the Artful Dodger in Oliver when you were in that band.
Truth.
Who introduced you to musical theater or theater in general?
So I'm the youngest of 5 kids, and I was always just sort of music. I was always singing, and I was just always watching and observing. And I was all 5. You just don't, and maybe it's just also my nature. I just needed attention, so I was always just doing something to get attention. In school, I was always talking. I was always getting kicked out of class because I wasn't paying attention. I was just entertaining people and, looking around. I think it was ADD. I'm sure I was on the spectrum. But anyway, so I was always singing and performing. And I remember seeing the movie of Oliver at the theater, and I was captivated. I just remember going out of the theater saying, I could do that. Why didn't they come to Billings, Montana and cast that? I think I could have been in that movie. So flash forward 6 months later, the high school director was leaving, and he wanted to do a big bang, a big final musical celebration, and he wanted to get all the kids in town involved, and he decided to produce Oliver. So his wife was actually my 4th grade teacher. I was in 6th grade, and the teacher came up to me and said, "Wally, we know you can sing because whatever, you seem like you could do this." So I went down and auditioned and sang, and there was like everybody, every boy in town. I was telling somebody the other day that I remember there was one girl who was in line, and I think she sang, but I remember her walking out in tears because she wasn't able to be in the show because it was all boys. Anyway,
is that what?
Yeah, so I got the part.
Is that what hooked you, basically?
What's that?
Is that what hooked you from that moment?
Is that what hooked you from that moment?
Yes, and so I played this, and my aunt taught me how to do an English, a Cockney accent, and I had the entire dialogue memorized by the time my first rehearsal. I was off book at the first rehearsal, and I just remember, being on stage at the high school, and people were applauding and standing ovation, and people were asking for my autograph after the show, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is fantastic. I could do this for a living. Singing and dancing, and people were like applauding me, and everyone was very supportive and very, very positive and said, you were great, whatever. And so I always felt like, yeah, maybe I could do this.
I love that. I love that. It's a great introduction.
It really is. It really is. And, you know, when I auditioned for Tad on All My Children, the Pirate King is very much like, what happened there? Oliver. I mean, the Artful Dodger is sort of kind of like a grown-up Pirate King. And when I screen tested for Tad, I remember the casting director, Dinchenko, I think her name is.
Joan
Dinchenko. She said, "We're looking for a grown-up Artful Dodger." I said, "That's me." I played the Artful Dodger, and I'm the Pirate King. Well, I got screen tested, but as we all know, who got the part, and they probably made a good decision.
That is
you did
wild.
a good job.
Well, speaking of audition, take us back to the audition and screen test for Justin.
Yeah. Well, I was at the time I had a rent-a-wreck. I didn't have a car, and I was working as a busboy at a restaurant on Saturday nights. And then during the day, so I could go to auditions, I was sort of a PA for a commercial production house, Pitka. And so it was great. I had a friend who, in fact, I should have given her a big bouquet of flowers for doing this, but she allowed me to kind of like squirt away during, running, camera film from, place to place, or, post house or this for the commercial production company. I would squirrel away and do a quick audition, but I ended up getting, and once again, I screen tested, and I had an artist who was the producer. She, she had me get a haircut, put me in a new coat, sort of polished me up a little bit. I guess I looked a little rough around the edges. Asked me to lose 7 pounds. So I basically fasted on fruit for like 4 or 5 days, and I went in and did the screen test and got the job in '91. And back then, they had a hard time casting the character. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, I worked on a Saturday, the only Saturday I've ever worked in daytime. And I believe it aired like the following Thursday. I think it was like 4 days turnaround. For some reason, that's how, they were doing that 1 or 2 week turnaround. And I remember I worked on the same day as Deidre Hall, because Deidre Hall was doing that primetime series Home or Family. Forget what it's called. She was doing a primetime show. And anyway, so it was like just 4 days before we aired. And and here I am 35 years later.
I mean, it's crazy.
Hey,
Wally, do you have
another tab
open with StreamYard in it?
Another tab open. I could get. Let's see here.
Is there another tab open?
Is there another?
You want me to just?
No. I was asking if there was another tab open.
No. I was asking if there was another tab open as well.
No, I don't see. I don't know.
Okay, don't worry about it.
Okay, don't worry about it.
The fans are really excited to hear they hate my echo. I'm gonna try and run and get.
Headphones for me.
Okay, you can't hear me?
I can hear you, but the echo.
I can hear you, but the echo for people was bad.
Oh, is that it? Okay, sorry. I'm in my kitchen. My hair's a little wacky. Maybe I'll put my hat back on. Okay.
See if this works better. Can you hear me?
Yeah. I can hear you fine.
Okay, I don't know if we're echoing for people, but
it's still echoing for people?
I think so.
Huh.
Yeah, sorry. Doesn't usually happen.
Sorry.
Was there anyone who took you under their wing when you arrived?
Jane Elliott. Jane Elliott was really very, helpful. She was the one who sort of taught me to, like, look beyond the words, look beyond the adjectives and the adverbs that the writers will throw in there. Trust your instincts. I come from the world of stage and theater, and for some reason it was like every word was sacred. You don't change a word. So I kind of did it that way, and also don't change the intent. So I've learned over the years how to sort of, once again, just sort of massage it to make it work better but bring more of me into the words and into the characterization that the writers have dreamed up. And that was Jane. She sort of gave me the confidence to kind of like trust yourself. Don't get lost in all the descriptions of how the writers say the character should react. You may not react this way. You may react in a little different. You know what I mean? And that's really important, because then it gets out of your head and you're more than in the moment and allowing to just the moment to unfold rather than control. In real life, you're sort of waiting for life to unfold in front of you. You don't not necessarily know what your next line is before it happens. You know what I mean?
Right.
So she was very helpful that way. And John Aniston too really taught me how to just sort of, just work a scene. And we never really, Steve Nichols was pointing this out when we were discussing John after he passed away, and how, we never really discussed what the scene was about or any kind of scene structure. I mean, we ran the lines, we would get an idea of what was going to happen, but we didn't really work a scene too much in terms of script analysis, scene analysis. But I liked how he memorized lines and how he just needed to say the words out loud. And I still use that sort of method of memorization. Like, I need to hear what they're saying. That's as important as what I'm saying.
What a gift.
What a gift.
Generous actors.
Yes. And Judy, those first 4 years, I mean, Judy had experience, but she was just so, she's just her emotional depth and range was just sort of, awe-inspiring. I mean, just come at you and real, and just like, it was just, it was intense and inspiring, and
I grew up watching
Judy on Guiding Light.
Yeah,
and she was beyond. That emotional stuff you talk about.
The emotional reservoir that some people have, and she has it, and is not afraid to display it.
When did you realize the impact of Adrian and Justin? I mean, the fact that fans still love these two together.
I don't know. I mean, it was definitely, that's a good question for them. I mean, as one of the participants in that couple, I didn't always go back and see the big picture. I was in the picture. So my analysis of why that worked is a little bit skewered. I mean, I think one of the amazing qualities that Justin just portrayed back then was this willingness to look past this very wounded woman who had been sexually assaulted, and really wounded, and was patient and kind and understanding and tolerant of that, I guess wound is the best way to describe it. And he I think he behaved in a way that was very heroic. And I think so that probably was kind of, I think, attractive, and definitely, would do that. They might run away at something that, a woman that somewhat scarred, and so emotional, you know what I mean? I mean, there was, Judy was able to like go there. I mean, Justin had to be strong for her, which he really wasn't. He was just as, vulnerable as she was, but he had to stay strong for her. I mean, that's one of the things that I noticed in the 4 years that you didn't really get to see Justin ever really break down, when you were just a few moments where Justin was able to reveal, his emotional truth at times, because he always had to be strong for her. And I think that's, that's heroic, that he sacrificed, that part of himself to, to support her and to be there for her. And hopefully you saw the moments too. Like, I think, they sort of captured that, where Adrian was there for him too. Just like when Victor died just recently, when Bonnie was there for him. But I think people, even though, Judy's playing Bonnie, I think they see, it's the same actress, and I've even said something like, she was Adrian there. I saw Adrian in that performance. And I think they're probably right. There was probably more Adrian in that hug than there was Bonnie.
What surprised you?
What surprised
you?
You said you were doing the cue card.
So you got to watch days early on, but then coming on as a performer. What surprised you most?
Well, so here's the thing. I did the cue cards, and I didn't do it very long. First of all, my printing wasn't that great, but I was going to school. And I had to drive all the way out there. So I only worked like maybe like 2 or 3 weeks, if I remember correctly. I worked as long as I did. I just remember I became a much better printer of, letters. And I started doing a lot more printing than, cursive writing. But what I didn't do was go to the set and do the cue cards. I only wrote the cue cards. So I never went on the set. So I never did see that. I remember walking by Studio 9 when Days of Our Lives was at the NBC studios. So I remember seeing the set. I just remember seeing like, oh, it's Days of Our Lives. But when I joined the show in '87, they were back at Sunset Gower. They'd already moved to Sunset Gower for, I think maybe 85 or 84 or something like that. So, and I was hanging around there in 79, 80.
Were you looking?
And then we went back to NBC.
Were you looking for cue card?
So I had cue cards when I started. John had cue cards. I only used cue cards to remember my lines. I go, okay, because I wanted to use the guys. I wanted to keep them employed. So I'm like, okay, I'm never going to use them while the tapes are rolling, but I'll use them to go through just to try to remember what my lines are before we start the scene, which is not a great use of a guy doing cue cards. Because now, of course, every actor's like sort of, if they're not unsure, they just want to do a quick review of the dialogue before the scene starts, and they're like, da, 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 and then they throw the script away and they go, okay, let's do it. But back then I was like, okay, yeah, just Brian, yeah, keep turning. But John would use them.
What memories of John can you share? You worked with him for a long time.
Yeah, no, I mean, he was just had a great sense of humor, and he was just, he really was, he had a club, a nightclub in Manhattan, and they had live music, and that was a good, he really liked. I think that was John. I think he liked having that club because I think he's a very personable guy, and he was. And just the fact that he knows all those jokes, I'm sure that was part of his, being the host. He owned it.
Yeah.
Bringing people in, they were actors and singers, cabaret, and so he was just that guy that kind of like old Broadway, he was a Broadway actor. And so that was really cool about him. And he was just a classy guy, just never complained. He was never he would just, he had a great attitude about what soaps were. He used to always say they're camp, Wally. You just got to understand, it's camp. I never bought that. I think I don't think it's giving soaps enough credit. It's more than camp, but I understood what he was saying,
Right.
Right. So he didn't take himself too seriously or the work too seriously, which you can't. We're entertaining people.
Mm-hmm. What are some of your favorite stories over the years on Days?
Stories over the years.
Some of my favorite what?
Storylines.
Storylines.
Oh, storylines. Well, I always point to the first year of Justin and Adrian, mainly because I'd never been on a soap, but I also realized, looking back, that was the one time, right up to the Greek wedding, where I really was working 4 or 5 days a week. My character and Wally was shot out of a cannon, and going out on public appearances and just being out there in the world and just having no idea how many people watched Days of Our Lives and what kind of legacy I was joining, and just the emotional work that was handed me with, like I said, with Adrian's storyline, and then all the singing. Suddenly we brought in this whole musical element, and I was singing all the time and having to learn songs. And I wasn't, I became a better guitar player, but I had to really oh yeah, I can play the guitar. And next thing I know, oh my God, I'm playing the guitar every 2 weeks. I'm learning a James Taylor song or this song or that song. And I think for the audience, I think they probably saw something they'd never seen before. Looking back on it, I mean, Justin was so romantic. Writing songs, setting poems that she had written to music and buying out the restaurant and then playing it on the piano.
You were the male Taylor Swift.
You were the male Taylor Swift.
I made a paper boat and put the engagement ring on it, and then blew it across a little pond that they had, made in the studio, so she could, that's pretty romantic. I remember doing the 4th of July.
It doesn't get more romantic.
I think I booked I had the entire 4th of July display paid for by me for just for Adrian. So very demonstrative, a lot more demonstrative than Wally. I learned a little something there. I could be a little more demonstrative to my, the women that I've involved.
Did they help Wally become more romantic?
Well, I'd like to think, but it hasn't. I still could be probably more, I'm sure. That's usually the complaint.
That's funny. That is funny.
What
has the transition to Peacock been like?
It's been seamless. Once again, a little more, cut. We got to trim the budget even more. So, but we're all used to doing that. But pretty much the show itself, one and done, man. One takes. Come in knowing your lines, deliver the goods, simple camera shots. We don't have a lot of time, so that we're already used to working at that pace. And now even just getting on the set a little quicker, just really knowing what you're doing. And but now, every year seems to we come in under budget or thereabouts, so they keep us around. All it probably takes is 1 year over the budget, and they're like, we're done, But we,
they signed it for 2.
Yeah. And General Hospital's the same way. The General Hospital's the same way. You have to, there's a budget, and Disney is, they're more, they're on it, and they're typical, they're very, as everyone knows, budget conscious. Disney is. So both shows really have to produce a very efficient show. But getting back to my favorite storylines on General Hospital, just to give them some fairness.
Oh yeah, I was going
to go there.
Go ahead.
But just that, you know, there's been a lot of stuff on GH that I've actually enjoyed. I mean, you know, obviously the Ned and Lois, once again with all the music, was really fun and exciting. But, you know, the stuff with Alexis was also really entertaining and very unique, you know, and had its own, you know, color as a romantic couple. And then the new stuff with Olivia. I mean, again, that brings out a different quality of Ned that I think, you know, it's hard for me to pick which is my favorite, but all three of those I think have been very cool. And for me, challenging because they're not the same. I'm not repeating myself.
One of the fans, Clay, just said, "Hey, Mr. Kurth, you were the perfect replacement for Kurt McKinney."
"Hey, Mr. Kurth, you were the perfect replacement for Kurt McKinney."
And your song, "Love,"
you know,
will
I saw
have the
Kurt
last
and
word,
your
stayed
song,
on repeat.
"Love will have the last word," stayed on repeat.
Oh, that's nice. Love will have the last word. Yeah.
What did you say about Kurt?
That
I
was
worked
a
with
song.
Kurt on Guiding Light.
I worked with Kurt on Guiding Light.
Yeah, I wouldn't really agree with that. I remember seeing Kurt just briefly with Jane when they were playing Tracy and Ned on TV. So it was when I was watching the show, just turning the channel and seeing Tracy, knowing Jane. I watched it, and they did a really funny little scene where they were like, you know, having fun. And I went, wow, that's cool. I mean, they're having fun. And I thought Kurt seemed like a pretty interesting character. And so I was always, I mean, I never had anything but positive things about Kurt. So
that's funny.
I don't know.
That's funny.
Jane had a role in you getting
getting that job, right?
Yes, she did. Yes, she did.
Talk about that.
She, well, so, and also Mark Teschner had a little bit to do with it as well. They were both looking out for me. Mark Teschner said my headshot was not attractive, and that she said, and he said that Gloria probably would say, I don't want to see him just by looking. And also Mark saw the credit, Days of Our Lives, and he just whited it out because he knew that Gloria Monty did not like any actors from other soaps because she wanted to discover actors. So he wiped it out, a little white out there. And Jane told me the same thing, like, Wally, whatever you do. Well, first of all, I had just gotten married. And she said, take your wedding ring off. And whatever you do, don't tell Gloria that you were on another soap. And in particular, don't tell Gloria that we played lovers. And I went, okay. So I went in there, took off my wedding ring, and acted like I didn't know Jane. And we did the scene together where we played, you know, mother and son. And evidently, Gloria was convinced, and she hired me. I'm not sure if Gloria, I know she never talked to me about it, if she ever knew that I was on, and I'd just been on Days of Our Lives 6 months earlier. I mean, it'd only been 6 months since I left. So obviously, Gloria doesn't read the trade magazines, the soap magazines.
And you screen tested with Carol Richardson?
Yeah, so I read in the office with Jane, and then they did a screen test with Cheryl. Very extravagant screen test. We were on a ladder. We were supposedly painting. There was a bucket that we were supposed to be hauling up and down the ladder. I mean, I've done a few screen tests in my life, but usually you walk into a room, you maybe have one little activity, and you're just staring at each other. For some reason, Gloria wanted to see us being able to do, you know, walk up and down a ladder, carry a bucket of water, like we were carrying paint, and then we were supposed to have fun. It was supposed to spill, and, you know, I guess she just wanted to see us having fun. But it was just me. So I kind of knew that I was the only one testing. So I was kind of confident that I could get the part.
How did it feel getting it really pretty soon after you left Days?
6 months. Yeah, just 6 months. I left in January, at the end of January, and I started August 23rd was my contract date, which seems to always be my lucky number. My opening night on Broadway was August 23rd. my contract started on Broadway, August 23rd. Yeah, for some reason. And every August 23rd, so it was just last week, I always go, am I doing anything interesting?
You got to play the lottery.
Any life-changing, job that's going to happen? But nothing ever does, but I always think it will.
Well, talk about working with Jane on both shows. What's it like working
opposite Jane?
Well, she keeps you on your toes. Jane is, and I think she's definitely softened over the years. But, Jane in this last, since she's been on General Hospital these last 3 or 4 months, I see her with a vigor and a enthusiasm and just commitment that, she's always been all 3 of those things in the past, but for some reason, I think just coming back to work, and I know what it's like to not be working and then going back to the studio and really feeling like, wow, this is really a gift. This is really fun to be able to play like this. So I feel like, she's really been wonderful to play with recently. She always is, but even more so now. No, she's just obviously really talented, and she knows what she's doing. And I just, and we have a lot of fun. We really trust one another. And I always feel like I want to be good for her. I want to get her approval. Kind of the same thing I always had with John Aniston. Deep down, we were playing the scenes, but deep down there was an actor trying to get the other actor's approval and making sure I make them proud.
I love that.
Leslie
Charleston
and
Stuart Damon.
Yeah, lucky. I'm just lucky. They were just wonderful people once again, and couldn't be more welcoming into the Quartermaine crazy family, and just, not that they, not that actors wouldn't be welcoming, but we just jumped right in, and you were just one of the family. And that was just because Leslie and Stuart were like that. Very warm, and just, pros from back east. I always loved that Stuart came from the musical theater world like I did, and I always, he was always Prince Charming to me because I remember that when I was really little, little black and white version and a black and white television in Billings, Montana, seeing him sing, I was just like, and once again, I was already had a curiosity for singing and doing that. There was an interest there, I think. We talked about when I was 11. So and doing Artful Dodger. But and even John and of course David Lewis, the history he had with, television and films, and he was just this legend that was really welcoming, kind. And of course, John Ingle was another just this guy that couldn't have been more friendly and encouraging, supportive. You would do like a big long monologue in the Quartermaine den, and afterwards, John would start applauding like the high school drama teacher he was, and go, "Bravo, bravo!" And you're like, "Thanks, John. I didn't really need a bravo, but the applause. I like the applause."
What type of music were you listening back?
In Billings, Montana?
Oh, well, it was, it was the pop music of the day. I was just thinking about this, that since I was the youngest of 5, my oldest was 8 years older than me. And so my sister, it's my sister and then 4 brothers and 4 boys. So she was the one that would bring home the Beatles albums, the Dave Clark 5, and then my other brother would bring home, a few years later, like Bonnie Raitt, Jefferson Starship, Jefferson Airplane, Steve Miller Band. But it seemed like I didn't buy any records until like high school, But, it was all, that pop rock sound. I was never into country music. We never, we weren't and then I remember when I was little, around the house, I don't know whether it was my mom or someone bought Simon and Garfunkel's Bridge Over Troubled Water. And I remember I had headphones and I just listened to that song, that album over and over again. And then also we got a copy of Jesus Christ Superstar. And that was really cool. And that's really got me. I don't know whether I'd done Oliver yet. I think I might have already done Oliver. So when I was listening to that, I was really into that was really a cool rock musical that I thought that would be exciting to do. You know what I mean? So that was kind of the music. It was a wide range, pretty much everything but country, really. But
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, Jessica says
she's got tickets
for the Bourbon Room on October
22nd.
Talk about
the day players.
So for those of you who haven't heard, we are doing a Day of Days at the new Peacock Place downtown. And there's going to be a Peacock Theater. So Peacock has gotten,
great.
I'm going to get in trouble now for not knowing. Anyway, Peacock Plaza. That's it. Peacock Plaza. And Peacock Theater. That's going to be on Saturday, October 21st. All day. All the actors will be there. It'll be super fun. And it's free. So if you're in town or want to come to Los Angeles, Saturday, October 21st will be the Day of Days event.
Peacock Place.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you can get tickets. It should be on everyone's social media. I think everyone on the show is pushing it. So there's I think I don't know if there's tickets or not, but I know it's free. I know they're not charging anything. But the next day we are charging. We're doing a little concert at the Bourbon Room in Hollywood at 12 o'clock noon. And also we're going to play. We'll be playing at the Day of Days. The day players we played last year. We'll play like 4 or 5 songs, all covered songs, all covered tunes, different than last year. We'll do 4 different songs this year. And then the next day on Sunday, we'll do a concert. And that's fun. We do like a 90-minute show. We sing all cover songs that everyone knows and can sing along with. And we tell dumb stories and probably do too much drinking. And it's a lot of fun. And the fans seem to love it. And we love it. Man, we're having a great time.
Do you guys get together like in someone's garage and rehearse? Where do you rehearse?
Yeah, we rehearse in Brandon's house. Out there in the valley. And but now he's gonna be a new father here in a couple weeks. So we may have to start rehearsing somewhere else. But Brandon and Eric live in the same vicinity. So we decided to go there. For me, it's 30 miles away. It's a long drive.
Oh, wow.
So we don't get together all that much, but we're going to put together a new show. We're adding new songs every time we go. And next year we do like not a completely new show, but at least half the songs will be new. So we'll have to do some more rehearsing in the fall.
Is it a blast when you get on
the road?
Total blast. It's a total blast.
Yeah.
Because, we get there, we do 2 shows on the weekend. So we'll fly into like Detroit. And then after we do the afternoon in Detroit, we'll get in a car, and all 5 of us, we have a drummer and a lead guitar player named Dickie, and he joins us. So we all 5 in a van, and we drive across Michigan to Illinois to play on Sunday afternoon in Chicago.
How fun.
Or we go into Oklahoma City and we drive all night to Dallas and do the next day in Dallas. So it's just one of those, it's like a bunch of kids in a van after college, hitting the road and being in a band. And I'd never done that. And these guys are hilarious. And I really had a lot of fun. They're all younger than me, and they just make me laugh. And we have a great time. And it's a nice getaway, and we're having a ball. And honestly, we've only done it. Well, is it true? I think we only started last September. So we've only done it a year. We've only been out for a year, and we still like each other. We don't hate each other. We actually like each other more than we did when we started. That's saying something.
I love that. Does Ned or Justin hold a closer place in your heart?
Oh, wow. I like to say that Ned and Justin are 2 sides of the same coin. And there are times I will say that I'll probably say that Ned and Eddie are probably a little bit more like Wally, you know what I mean? But there's something about Justin that is, to me, is a little bit more, okay, so I think Ned is a little bit more like Wally's personality, but Justin is a little bit more like Wally's insides, you know, his soul, a little bit more of that. But so sometimes I enjoy going back and being more soulful, and other times I like going and being like the fun Wally guy. You know what I mean? In a way, that's sort of how looking at it in a way.
That's a good way. I like that. One of the fans asked if they could be a roadie.
We could use a roadie. We could use a roadie. Come to one of the shows. You're more than welcome to help bring everything back. You know, pack the van. Yeah, you can do that.
So last year, GH. Ned adopted Leo. Played by Rocky. And the character was on the autism spectrum. What did you think when GH approached you about that story?
Yeah, I mean, I was all for it. Obviously, I'm experiencing it, you know, firsthand, and it is it's a life-altering experience, you know, being a parent of a child with special needs. It just is. Your life will change, and you can either make it a positive thing, or you can make it a negative thing. And because I'm a positive person, I chose the positive route. And it's been nothing but invigorating and life-changing. And yes, it's more work and there's more worry. But you know, the obstacles and the hurdles that he goes over are even more rewarding when they do happen, you know. I mean, in so many ways, you know, my wife and I talk about it, that we wouldn't change a thing, even though, you know, we're not experiencing, you know, our son's 18 years old. He's not going off to college, and all of our friends' kids are going off to college and doing this. And, you know, you just have to sort of, okay, you know, congratulations, go, but our son's not, you know? And so you know, it's those moments sometimes that remind you, and that can be, you know, a little, obviously sad, and whatever that is, a little grieving that goes into it. Like, he's not going to have that experience. But so those moments still occur, but you know, the positives outweigh the negatives. I mean, honestly, how it's changing.
My cousin Kyle, he's in his 20s. And not having those experiences.
Yeah, they're not having a typical experience. You know you know, and that's what you get sad for, and you grieve that they're not going to have that. But they're having their own experience, and then they've taken you on your own. We're definitely having our own parent experience, separate than our other friends, and that only parents with kids with special needs really understand.
What helped you and your wife in that early time of figuring your son's diagnosis out?
Well, obviously, you know, doctors and the teachers and the therapists, and, you know, we had each other and books. I mean, you just help me, you know what I mean? Like everybody, I can use some help, you know, and obviously siblings and, you know, other parents, and you really do sort of reach out to everybody and anybody to, you know, gain the knowledge. I mean, not every book. I'd start a book and I go, okay, well, that's not like my child, and I can't relate to that or this or that. You know, either they're less impacted or more impacted. You know, Brogan's pretty severely impacted, and so, you know, every case is different. You know, moderate to severe is how I would, you know, put it.
Is there a piece of advice? You give somebody who's going through this?
Be kind to yourself, and know that there'll be days that, you know, you'll be angry and frustrated, and that's being alive and being a parent, and you know, being aware that it's hard. Days are hard, and you just, you know, have a good support system, If you're single, make sure you have friends around you, and stay close to your teachers and therapists. And, you have to have a team. I mean, it's a team, what it takes a village. Well, in this case, when you have a child with special needs, it really does take a village. I mean, the school and the state and all these different, service providers and so forth have all been very helpful. And, you really do need a team to sort of make it all work. It's still, I tell you, the books, you learn something from the books and all that, but you just got to kind of experience it. And, there are times when I'm like, oh, that's the name of a chapter. Like when I write my book, and I used to, this was a chapter, and that was a chapter. And I'd always think after I wrote that chapter and think about what I would say, I would always think to myself, like, well, a lot of these examples, a typical father would also say about his typical son, in just a different way. You know what I mean? I should try to find a better example that I could explain that. But I always thought, like, and in this way, the challenge of this moment with Brogan is similar to what a typical father would have with his son or his child, but just in a little, whether it's a little more severe or whatever, it's still a challenge. Every parent has a challenging child in a way. They're not all angels.
Right.
For whatever reason, every parent usually has, a challenge ahead of them. I have 2 older daughters who are typical, and obviously they've been challenging, So I guess what I'm trying to say.
And I'm sure you were challenging, and I was challenging.
Yes.
Yeah.
Although when you're the youngest of 5 kids, and I was like, I would do musicals, and I was like somewhat active in school, and my other brothers were just like not. My parents, I had no parental supervision for like probably the last 3 years of my high school. None. The fact that I came home, great. They thought, oh, he's in the musicals. He does musicals. He'll be fine. Oh, I never studied. I was drinking way too much. I was but anyway,
that.
yes.
I love
so
that.
every child, whether it's typical or atypical, is a challenge for that parent, and just know that your challenges are going to be a little different, but look at them and look for the gift. You got to look for the gifts. So often, because my son loves the ocean, he likes to go in the evenings. He actually likes to swim into the evenings, like dark. So I get to go out and watch these incredible sunsets, which I've been experiencing for the last 5 or 6 years, and I still do. And it's a gift, because I would never go to the ocean. I would never drive to the ocean this much and get to see these beautiful sunsets. So I hashtag gift of autism, just to remind myself and everyone that you have to see the gifts. You have to, in every child.
That's beautiful. I love that.
Beautiful. I love that.
Mel says Wally Kurth is one of the most underrated actors in daytime. He has brought me so many hours of entertainment. I love Wally.
Thank you.
Is there a dream?
You're right. I am underrated.
Yes, you are. Is there a dream role that you musical theater role that you still have?
Well, as I've gotten older, they're a little more limited. I probably still think that I could. I had a dream the other day, like, I think I could probably pull off the Pirate King. Really, the Pirate King, I was way too young. He's supposed to be like probably in his late 40s or early 50s. He has, Frederick's only 19, or he turns 21, but he's really only 4.5 because he was born on Leap Day. But I was way too young, and I could probably play the Pirate King. That might be fun to play again, one last time. And when was the last time it was on Broadway? Really, we could probably pull it off. New York Shakespeare Festival might be into a revival. But other than that, I love playing music, man. I love the fact that I played Sky Masterson and Guys and Dolls. Those were 2 great roles. Yeah, see, I don't think I could do. Maybe Javert would be fun in Les Miserables. I know I'm missing something. I know there's probably some great musical out there that I think probably, you know what? Maybe maybe a Rodgers and Hammerstein classic. Oh, maybe My Fair Lady. That might be fun. That might be a challenge. Little Henry Higgins.
Well, come back to New
Come
York.
back to New York.
Okay.
Wally, it's a pleasure. I apologize for the audio issue, but thank you for spending the hour.
Well,
thank you for spending the hour.
Oh, I had a pleasure talking to you, Alan, and thank you all for visiting and continuing to watch the shows. It keeps me employed, and I love what I do. So without you watching, I wouldn't be able to have the wonderful life that I have. So thank you.
That's awesome. Wally, stay here for just a minute as
I sign off.
Okay.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for joining. Thank you to Wally for spending the hour. Please join me tomorrow when actress Jennifer Ash from As the World Turns joins me live. If you haven't yet subscribed to my YouTube channel, you can do so down below. Turn on notifications for reminders of all upcoming shows. And if you want to stream The Locker Room, you can just search it on your favorite audio platform. Have a great evening, everybody, and I will see you tomorrow afternoon at 3 o'clock.